Yeah.
Actually, nothing.
Go ahead and pause the recording.
All right. I'll call the meeting to order. I don't think we have any remote participants today. At least at this point. Stephen wasn't planning to be here. Any matters from the public?
There are not.
No matters from the public. All right. So approval of the minutes. The minutes were circulated with the package. Any comments on the minutes? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Second that. All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, the minutes approved. Financial report. Since we don't currently have a treasurer, Ashley, do you?
I'd be happy just to reiterate that the financial report that was distributed is the last one that the authority did see, and just to echo your sentiment, once we have a secretary treasurer elected, we will coordinate to develop the proper format moving forward.
Okay. Any volunteers? Anybody dying to be the secretary treasurer? Andy is David Street.
It's been a long summer.
Yes, Dave stepped down. Andy is Dave's replacement. All right, so on to new business.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item under new business is an update on Rivanna Station futures. And with me today to help present the update on this project is Deputy County Executive Trevor Henry, who's here to my right, and then also our interim Director of Finance, Jacob Sumner, here behind me. And the purpose of today's update is to make sure the EDA feels prepared to consider action at our next meeting in September. And so I'll just quickly tee up a little bit of pressure on this topic. We canceled our meeting in July, so it's been more than 60 days since we've gotten together about this topic. But I'll start with the bottom line up front, which is that on September 19th, the next scheduled EDA meeting, the authority will consider a bond resolution for the financing of this project that will be up to a $60 million bond anticipation note. That will be a public sale for the financing around the acquisition of this 462 acres next to Rivanna Station. Deputy County Executive Trevor Henry will give us an update on some of the due diligence that's been happening on this project. But just we have Jacob here in case there are any financing questions at the end of the presentation, and Trevor is best suited to answer any questions about due diligence. So just a refresher, the area highlighted in light blue is the 462 acres that the county currently has under contract. The area that's highlighted in coral is currently owned by the Army, owned by the federal government. And then the area highlighted in green is privately held. That's currently under lease by contractors that are affiliated with the Department of Defense and Rivanna Station. And this is a refresher on the vision that's been motivating the position of this property.
JT, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Can you go back?
Yeah.
To the slide? So is the green portion owned by the seller of the, or is it somebody different?
It's somebody different.
Okay.
So it used to be owned by the seller and it was sold a few years ago to an LLC.
I think it's worth noting, just on that question, that building has been upfitted and upgraded by the Army to allow it to be at a secure space level. It's not inside the secure perimeter of Rivanna Station proper, but it does have elements of security currently being used by contractors. There's an addition project that is happening on the base, lab space, skiff addition. Some of the elements that are in that commercial building will relocate into the base and National Ground Intelligence Center in the new wing. But it's my understanding that the Army is looking to extend that lease for an additional 5 years due to some additional resource needs.
Is there a skip in that building?
I do believe it has been upgraded to skiff level within the commercial building.
While we're on that too, will there ever be an opportunity with the county being positioned that name for sale? Add that so that, it's just like this island, you'd love to have the county control the whole thing. Certainly.
I believe the sale price of that property was $40 million itself. So this is about 8 acres here highlighted, but yeah, it was expensive.
We also are inquiring the owners of the property, there may be some ties back to our federal government. The owners of the green property, but through an LLC.
Okay.
There's some belief that is
Okay.
because of concerns around encroachment and other, security reasons. That is
Seller of the county property. Who's the seller?
It's a Next Generation LLC, which is controlled by Wendell Wood.
Okay,
All right.
thanks.
Yeah. So this is a 3D rendering of a vision that was first put forward back in 2017 by some consultants working on behalf of to envision what's one possible expansion of Rivanna Station, what could it look like? And so since I've already got the laser pointer up here, this is the existing Rivanna Station, the 75 acres here. And then on the other side of Boulders Road, this vision started out with warehouse space and then shows approximately 600,000 square feet of total additional buildings along an extension of Boulders Road that circles back to Route 29. And the total space occupied by this vision is about 50 acres of that 462 that is currently under contract. And at our meeting back in June, we talked about the economic impact of this vision being one of 700 direct jobs locally, accruing at least $1 million of local tax revenue and just over $2 million of state tax revenue. And so over the summer, Trevor, myself, and other county staff have been inching forward on this partnership model and getting feedback on how we can bring this vision to reality. And so we've been meeting with partners at the state level, in academia, learning more about how other locations around the country that are utilizing this approach, how they're being successful, and figuring out how we can replicate that success here. And so that involves partnerships at the federal level, in the private sector, and in academia, including universities, community colleges, high schools, even middle schools. So this is just a quick refresher on the approach that we're taking. The ultimate goal would be for there to be financial contributions by partners to help the county reduce that overall cost and investment in this 462 acres. So with that kind of refresher in mind, I'd like to turn it over to Trevor to talk a little bit more about the due diligence that's continued over the summer.
We presented the last EDA meeting, really an update to the EDA on this project, and we talked about entering the due diligence period, which was by contract about 90 days. And then with an opportunity to extend, you know, through certain terms and conditions. And really the approach was to make sure that we assess the land, much like if you were, you know, buying a home, you'll have inspections on the site, on the building. This was really assessing the land for existing conditions, existing structures, existing leases, really a full eyes wide open assessment on the condition of the property as we consider the site and the final acquisition and the recommendation to the board. And so we have fast forwarded through, go ahead and next slide, GT. We fast forwarded through, the first 90 days of that. We have extended a month to allow additional work. And what I reported to the board on August 2nd, the same exact slide, is that, we have found a few issues related to some infrastructure on the site that we're working through, but nothing to date that we would classify as a showstopper of concern. And so we are continuing to work through kind of the final dotting of the i's and the crossing of t's of the engineering assessment. Really a critical path is final survey work and assessment of the title tied to the survey. And then we need to do a boundary line adjustment. And so that's the work that is currently happening now. Coordination we've had with VDOT on what that Boulders Road extension might look like, and then other utility providers on what a future build out would take and need in order to supply electric, water, sewer, things like that. And so that coordination is happening, but the summary for this body is that we are moving quickly towards the end of that initial phase of due diligence. Fingers crossed, so far so good. A few items that we'll have to wrap up before closing, but we're feeling confident about the work to date.
Is this sewer that goes to Ravenna Station sufficient to do the rest of its stuff, or is it gonna need to expand?
JT, you wanna?
To accommodate the additional expansion, I think there will need to be phased.
Phase, but
in-
but just an extension, not a increase.
Some of that depends on what happens on the other side of the street, and so the timing of that, so the timing of build out and things like that. We think that this is a long game process, and certainly there is time for the infrastructure like that to be built out for when we need it. I think there's a couple of pictures that are probably worth just on the eastern side.
Are you suggesting that's a solution?
Well, it's
pretty though.
That is tricky.
so in addition to the benefit of some standoff distances and some security to the existing facility, there's some opportunities for us to do some quality of life work out there with trails, with amenities like this. This happens to be one of the ponds that's on the facility. It's beautiful, and that's
It's totally beautiful.
yes, sir. And so those are some of the amenities that over the next, several years, as we master plan this whole area, we'll be evaluating what the quality of life opportunities are out there. That's the Newbury gazebo that we've named that.
That all recognizes the security, the importance of the security of the facility. I mean, it's not,
Yeah.
I don't think the public to think we're just gonna be opening this up for a public forum.
That's correct.
I mean, that's my understanding.
That's correct.
Jennifer, is there like a timeline that due diligence has to be done?
By contract, we have with extensions up to 6 months, Richie,
Originally 90 days, and then it entitled us to 6 30-day extensions.
630
And how are we looking on that timeline?
We have passed the 90-day mark. We're now within the first month of that extension. Yeah, likely we'll have a little more extension in order to get all of the work buttoned up. And really kind of the next slide. So those are the good things. These are some of the areas of work that we have out there. There's a rental house that has a tenant in it that will likely, that we'll have to deal with that through the contracting process before we close. There are some infrastructure items related to the two water bodies that are out there, the dams that need some work done on it. So it's those kinds of due diligence items that will get finalized before we would move to closing. And so we have a team, we meet weekly, cross departmental, attorney's office, exec's office, facilities, environmental services, community development, economic development, finance. It's full court press for almost the entirety of the non-public safety elements of the county working this project. It's a great team, great work, and we've been to the state, Mr. Richardson, myself, Mr. Newberry, 2 weeks ago. Today we're down briefing the veterans. The Secretary of Veterans and Defense Affairs is really the sponsoring entity of the secretariats, and we're working towards follow-ups with Commerce, Labor, and Education, and hoping to be in front of the governor sometime in the fall before the budget process kicks in. Supervisor action on September 6th for the financing, and then back in front of this board on the 9th. I think that's it for the did I miss anything?
No, that's great. And I should have said on the front end, one of the reasons I'm really thankful that Trevor could walk through the due diligence is that state code enables economic development authorities special powers related to property and the development of property. And we haven't got there yet, but I believe that the EDA could play a pivotal role in implementing these partnerships, and specifically through how the EDA might treat the land and helping to facilitate some of those partnerships. So we have Jacob Sumner here. The next near-term step is really financing, and we want to make sure that our calendars are clear. All of our EDA directors can be available and present to consider action on the financing on September 19th. We had bond counsel here at the June meeting, Chris Culp from Hutton Andrews, and we've got Jacob here to help us answer any finance questions there might be. The next near-term step is that financing piece. So with that, we'll take any questions the directors might have of Anastation Futures.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jacob.
And so,
Actually, I'm gonna change it. Do you foresee any holdups above and beyond? Like that you see that, wetlands or endangered species or something like that, you really think? it's
That's a
gonna
great
be
question.
really-
I should have hit that too. Part of the assessment has been to assess the ability to develop the development area that's in the acquisition, and early assessment and reports from our engineers is that we feel like there's a programming for the first 50-75 acres. They believe that within based on their analysis of the site, we should be able to at least double that, maybe more. So no, we've not seen anything that looks to be restrictive, and it probably was one of the most critical ones to make sure that the development opportunity was to a level that would be worth the investment over a period of time. Great question, thank you.
Great.
All right.
Okay. Thank you. So on to the next item on new business, the performance agreements for magnet schools. JT?
Yes, so Mr. Chair, this item is to consider the performance agreements to implement the Commonwealth Development Opportunity Fund and the Virginia Jobs Investment Program grants that have been awarded to Agrispheres. These are photographs from an event in early May. This was at 1180 Seminole Trail, the building next to Costco, where we have many of our primary businesses and target industry businesses. But in the photograph, you can see Governor Youngkin providing a flag to the co-founders, Payam and Amir, and this is a photograph of them. They framed it and they've got it up in their office that they shared with us recently. They are investing, they've committed to $25 million of capital investment and creating 53 new jobs for research and development and a test manufacturing area that will be in the space shown on the lower right-hand side. And so in the middle here, we've got our liaison to the EDA, Supervisor McKeel, along with Chair Price and their co-founders and the governor. We've got County Executive Jeff Richardson pictured here at the event. So it was a great event. I know, Mr. Chair, you were able to attend.
Yeah, I was there.
And
Yep. It was good.
and it was a great day. And so today is when we take action on those incentive agreements, and we have invited and joining us virtually the co-founder Payam Potaheri, who is going to provide just a brief update on the company since early May. So Payam, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. The floor is yours.
Awesome. They can't see me, but I also have my Project Befriend framed comic here as well that was gifted to me from the county. It's hung up in my office. But yeah, really grateful for the support we've received. Of the 53 jobs we want to create, I think we've already created about 14 of them, and the facility isn't up and running yet. So a lot more jobs to be created. We recently received organic approval for our technology that helps basically provide a controlled release of biological pesticides. One of their major issues is they're not environmentally resilient. Chemicals are sprayed, they last a long time in the environment, and they damage bodies of water or soil or environment. And for biologicals to be successful, they need to be stabilized and be able to actually provide the efficacy farmers need so they can grow their crops and get the best possible yield. And so our technology allows for that controlled release of these various biological based pesticides so that they can last for about a week or so, to ensure that every time a farmer goes and sprays maybe once a week, once every other week, they know that their pesticide is going to work every time. And another major attribute of the technology is that it's microplastic free. You may have heard in the news or in various articles, microplastics are in the environment. They're found just about everywhere. They're used in cosmetics, in agricultural applications, and specifically in agriculture, they're used for controlled release. And so our technology is an organic, fully biodegradable way of stabilizing these biologically derived pesticides. So really excited about that. That's what we're going to be manufacturing here in Albemarle County. When JT mentioned I could join and thank you guys and give you guys an update. Of course, I'm happy to be here, and thank you all for your continued support of our company as we go from a company that started at a lab bench at UVA and now have about 17K square feet and growing. So thank you for hearing me out today.
Thank you, Payam. Are there any questions from any of the directors about anything? There.
I think it's great that they've already started hiring.
Do you have an idea when you might be able to launch?
Yeah, if all goes well, the EPA is a good friend of ours. They are understaffed and underfunded, but they are getting through. And if all goes to plan, we'll have the approvals we need for a commercial launch of this time next year, which gives us time to build out our production site over the next 3 or 4 quarters, hire the people we need, and then get into the hands of our distributors. I think we'll do a lot of the distribution here in Virginia. The Monticello Wine Trail, the Virginia Wine Board have been such great supporters of us when we first started as undergrads. So we want to be the ones delivering to them. But out west and in the other crop regions, we would work through distribution. So hopefully we're slated for a Q4 2024 launch. Fingers crossed, there are no delays in getting the registrations, but we're ready to go once the EPA gives us the green light.
Congratulations, it's great.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else? All right, so
So I thought it
Oh,
would
you're
be,
gonna-
I thought it
yeah.
would be helpful to just give a quick overview of, it's been a few months since we've considered the specifics of this grant, but the EDA has heard this information before, but just to go over it one more time, the opportunity from the state is a total of $236,000. And so that's comprised of $200,000 in a COF grant and 36,000 through a VGIP grant. As I mentioned, that's as a result of capital investment and job creation. The average wage of those jobs would be just over $74,000. And so the agreement that would be approved today by the EDA would allow us to finalize those local match agreements that's required for the COF grant. And it would also allow us to act in accordance with our VGIP policy of matching the state's reimbursements for those new hires through the VGIP grant. And happy to answer any questions about the state's grant or the local match. If so.
So the county, like, we're, through the EDA, we're gonna be, like, we're spending 236 also,
Yes,
so they'll get, it's a half, almost half a million total.
yes. If all the benchmarks are met
Yeah.
by December of 2027.
And that amount has been prepared for. Side.
that's money that the board is coming out of the
Appropriate,
fund
yes.
that the board of supervisors appropriating to us.
That's right.
And the grant money is going towards,
Is going towards the company. The COF grant has a very broad application. There's really not a lot of strings attached to how that money is used. The VGIP grant is reimbursed as new hires come online, and it's meant to reimburse costs with recruitment and training for those new hires. So the way the process works is the company advises us that we've had 14 people we've already hired and they've been on for 90 days. And the state will verify that through their W-2 system. And then once the state verifies it, we will cut the matching check on a per job basis out of that $36,000.
just curious, what type of, job skills are they looking for their business?
The application included a lot of lab technicians, but Payam, if you're still on the line, would you like to answer the question of what type of skill sets you're currently hiring for?
Yeah, sure. I'm still here. Yeah, mostly biotech, fermentation scientists, plant molecular biologists, a lot of postdocs and industry scientists we're trying to relocate here. We get a really good, first in talent from UVA. We get interns and we hire them to stay in Charlottesville, but for some of the more senior level scientist positions, we tend to have to recruit from across the country. So mostly entirely R&D and some will be in the manufacturing facility as well.
Does the criteria for creation and maintenance of jobs that derives from the VGIP grant only or from both grants combined?
So that definition is applicable to both grants, and there's a definition included in the agreement that was distributed with your packet that talks about the definition of new job and maintenance of jobs on the bottom of page 2. It's applicable to both.
Okay. Yeah, wondering.
There are no.
Well, I was just gonna add in terms of the local VGIP match, there's a requirement that that the jobs be in Albemarle County. Virginia doesn't require that. It's been our match.
If there are no other questions, we have a motion on the screen for consideration by the EDA.
Make that motion.
Sure. I move the authority to adopt a resolution to approve the agreements to support the retention expansion of Agri-Spheres Inc.
There a second? All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Do you want to go by roll?
Sure, we'll do a roll call vote. That was what I was about to say.
Director Long,
Aye.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Matola.
Aye.
Director Morrell
Aye.
and Director Johnson.
All right, motion passes. So, next on the agenda is the Go Regional Entrepreneurship Initiative Grant. And I have conflicts, so I don't think I'm just not gonna vote on this. So JT, you introduce.
Yeah, I would love to tee up our guest speaker. We have a guest speaker today, the Executive Director of Venture Central, which is an organization that was one of the co-applicants for this Go Virginia grant. And I will welcome Rahul Kashyap to the table or to the front of the room, wherever he feels comfortable.
Wherever you'd like.
Okay, let's work. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
And I will. Rahul, if you give me 1 second, I need to re-share my screen for your slide presentation. Yeah. And yeah, you're good to go.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. Again, my name is Rahul Kashyap. I serve as Executive Director of Venture Central, which is a relatively recently established nonprofit organization that has a mission of supporting entrepreneurship and startups in the Central Virginia area. The idea is we want, Payam, for example, who serves on the board of Venture Central, is exactly the kind of founder that we want to support and hopefully support that startup to keep it in the region. So I'd love to talk to you briefly just about the regional entrepreneurship investment strategy and then really, answer any questions or concerns you might have. So JT, thank you. So the Regional Entrepreneurship Initiative really stems from a Go Virginia Region 9 grant. The idea being that Go Virginia looks for opportunities and pathways to support entrepreneurship in Go Virginia Region 9, which is displayed there, including the County of Albemarle. And so the grant has come really with an eye towards trying to unlock and identify other funding opportunities, both for Go Virginia and state resources, but also potentially for federal resources or other investments in our region. By essentially coming up with this strategy, we hope to identify those and unlock further funding. The timing of the grant is potentially longer, but it's right now aimed to be about 18 months. So started in June of this year and will run to December of next year. The funding, as you can see up there, is about $300,000 from DHCD through Go Virginia. And then there was essentially a requirement for matching funds. And so 75,000 of those have been pledged from the County of Albemarle as well, totaling that 165 there across the region. So in terms of the project goals, the idea again is really to come up with that regional entrepreneurship assessment and report. We need to identify both what the prior research is, but also reach out into the community and talk to folks across Region 9 who are in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, as we call it, try to understand, what is working, what isn't working, obviously what the opportunities are. And then in terms of what we want to come up with, it's really a 3 to 5 year, plan with some clearly identified some action items, again, to unlock that funding and also kind of hopefully coalesce interest and focus in certain areas. And then again, we also do want to have a specific goal of providing Go Virginia with a list of prioritized potential grant opportunities and funding opportunities. Very briefly, the project team includes, so the grant itself is going to be led by CIC, the Community Investment Collaborative, which hopefully you all are quite familiar with, and Stephen Davis, the president, is helping lead that up. Venture Central is essentially a partner in that in terms of helping CIC. And then, along with that, we are going to be hiring a consultant, which is Craig Honig. If anybody knows Craig, he's a part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and his company, the Good People Research Company, is going to be an integral part of helping us understand what's out there and listening to folks. We'll be hiring a program manager who has been identified and will be starting in a couple of weeks. We'll be reaching out to other entrepreneurial support organizations. So this is certainly not the kind of thing that is only Venture Central or even only CIC, but we'll be reaching out to, for example, the Charlottesville Business Innovation Council, Seville BioHub, and other organizations like that to try to make sure that everybody is part of that conversation. And then also there will be an advisory group, which will be largely led by city and county economic development representatives from the various counties and city that make up the Virginia Region 9. So that's the project team. This, I won't go into this in detail, but this is the project timeline. Again, at a very high level, we are in the getting started phase where we're literally having kickoff meetings and identifying the consultant and the program manager. Then in short order, we are going to start to identify, who the people are that we need to talk to and listen to. We are going to try to find out what the prior research is and what previous reports have been developed already, and then essentially go from there into some sort of collection of what did we learn, what are the recommendations. We do want to make this region-wide, and so we are going to be really connecting in with each city and county in order to develop a county-specific plan, essentially something that hopefully is actionable in that locality. And then essentially about a year from now, we're optimistic that we can essentially wrap up the collection and the planning and the recommendations, and perhaps start to blend in a little bit to identifying future opportunities and thinking about the next phase of work. So it's going to be a pretty active schedule. So that's about the overview. From you all, I think we're always seeking feedback and open to your questions. We are still really in a bit of the planning phase in terms of identifying what might we be missing, who are we not thinking of, or what groups are we not thinking of? How can we address concerns? Obviously, whether that's now or after the meeting. And the next slide is just a contact us kind of page. Happy to get your engagement and of course your questions. So does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rahul. There's certainly no if the EDA has any immediate reaction to any of the questions that are included on the screen, I think Rahul's prepared to receive that feedback or answer those questions. If not, we can move to discussion and consideration of the motion to approve the matching grant that the county pledged earlier this year.
I do have some questions. So this is a like a nonprofit organization? Are you affiliated with Go Virginia? Or are you, I guess I don't understand the corporate structure.
Yeah, it's a good question. So Venture Central is a 501c3 charitable organization. So it has no affiliation with the state. It is simply, in this case, pitching the grant. And CIC is really the lead on this. And CIC is another nonprofit organization that has deep ties within the community, but is not, a state or government entity of any kind.
So I guess I don't understand the goal of your and I apologize because I wasn't here. I'm a new member or a new director. So so I understand you're trying to or my understanding from what I just heard was to grow entrepreneurship and to, get it to thrive and to promote entrepreneurship. I guess I'm not understanding your timeline in a year and a half to try to set this up and the research. I don't understand really what those dollars are going for.
Sure. Well, I'll speak at a high level and then please stop me if I'm not, going the direction you're interested in. Venture Central, very broadly, is a nonprofit mission-oriented organization that has a focus of promoting entrepreneurship in Central Virginia. One part of that, of course, is helping to try to understand what is happening across the region. And, one opportunity that has been available is that Go Virginia has been looking for leads to develop essentially this regional entrepreneurship strategy. And so, this strategy really seems very well aligned with the mission of Venture Central. And, with CIC as well, although, there's a bit less overlap with the CIC mission since their focus is broader, but also focused on serving under-resourced entrepreneurs and founders. And so this is, the entrepreneurship REI strategy is essentially one activity of of Venture Central. We have other activities as well, but as a relatively new organization, we are still kind of figuring out what we want to be when we grow up.
Yeah, that's kind of my question.
No, go ahead.
But it was like your end goal with regard to furthering entrepreneurship. Like, is it providing, entrepreneurs and venture capital together, or what is the ultimate?
Yeah, it's a great question because we don't know that answer yet. So Venture Central was originally established with an idea to be kind of the front door for entrepreneurship in our area. And then the pandemic happened and, the entrepreneurial community has continued to kind of grow and evolve. And so, the one thing we don't want to do is just keep doing the thing we said we were going to do initially. And so we've got a broad mission that is to focus and promote entrepreneurship. But underneath that, I think there are a number of ways we could go in terms of, is it venture capital funding, for example, or is it angel investing, which is another thing we're active with. And some of this work, the regional strategy, will help to inform Venture Central because, certainly as a mission-driven organization in this region, this strategy will be hugely informative and helpful in terms of providing guidance.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, it's felt very helpful.
So looking at, as a director, to think how this money is a good investment for the community. Is it like, how are you selecting? I understand that you're trying to basically figure it out. Is all the grant money going to figuring it out? Or is it like, what is the timeline that this grant money will be used?
Thank you. So let me clarify that all of this grant is focused on developing the REI strategy. And so, the recipient of grant funds will actually be CIC. And the focus here is on, so it's, as you can see, it's about $465,000 worth of potential funding that could be spent for the grant. And the focus there will be on hiring the consultant. That's about $100,000 from that budget. And then the consultant will be helping us with a variety of data analysis, research, reporting, conversations and focus groups, those kinds of things.
And what sort of things are you looking for?
So what we're trying to understand is what are the opportunities for entrepreneurship in Central Virginia, both based on, for example, Go Virginia has a number of traded sectors that they focus on, and Go Virginia is looking to try to understand in Region 9, how can entrepreneurship flourish? So we don't want to put our thumb on the scale, but we'll be looking to speak to entrepreneurs and we'll be looking to speak to economic development folks to try to understand what they think might be missing from the region or where we could lean in to try to promote entrepreneurial activity.
You're a nonprofit who's feeding into the CIC as well as Go Virginia. Is that, I'm trying to understand how this set up and why this would be people.
Yeah, so Go Virginia is really the grantor in this case. And so they are providing the funds. CIC and Go Virginia, CIC and Venture Central have essentially gotten together and agreed to collaborate to execute on the REI strategy, which was a priority established by Go Virginia because they have done this in they will be doing this in every Go Virginia region. And so, they were essentially looking for someone to lead this in our region And Venture Central and CIC are collaborating in order to do that.
Well, do you mind if I add to that?
Please, JT.
You know, I think you took a lot of my thoughts right out of my head, because some of the context preceding this effort is that in looking at other communities that have really highly successful entrepreneurial ecosystems, there's typically a navigator, there's a front door, there's a central place where somebody says, I have an idea, I'm a PIAM, I'm on a bench at UVA, and I've come up with this great concept. How do I get this from a lab bench to a governor's announcement at a facility? And from looking at the best practices around the country, what we found in Charlottesville is that a lot of the resources were particularly disaggregated. So if you were a part of the university community, there was a track that had some gaps to it, but there was that. If you were part of our local community, there were some resources, but there were also some gaps there. And so Venture Central in its original ideation was, we want to be that singular front door that can bring together all of those different members to provide comprehensive resources to entrepreneurs. The pandemic changed a lot of things for a lot of different people, but the motion towards ecosystems, the CVille BioHubs, the Charlottesville Business Innovation Council, you see those specialized players really amplify the opportunities for entrepreneurs in our community. And so Venture Central's and the grant from Go Virginia will provide that roadmap of here are the gaps that still exist, even though we've all gotten together and have a better understanding of how we work together, and make recommendations on where there's opportunities to improve. So when I think about some of the benchmark communities, they already have this set up. And what happens is when entrepreneurs don't have that, they get sucked out of our community to Boston, to Austin, to San Francisco, to wherever their ecosystem may thrive. So I know like Dr. Hastings at CVille BioHub talks a lot about Boston. Others in the tech space talk a lot about Austin and San Francisco. So how can we make sure that those other places aren't more attractive to grow their businesses than to stay right here? Because it can be relatively unique if you get angel investment or venture capital from somebody in another area, they might say, hey, look, like your best shot at being successful is picking up and moving. And our office has examples of entrepreneurs that left the community because they weren't able to get the resources they needed. That's a little bit of context, further context to what we're just talking about. I said a lot there. I don't know.
That was helpful.
Yeah.
I have a question just about, it's noticing in the contract document that Charlottesville's bringing 75,000, Albemarle's bringing 75,000, and then the other counties in Region 9 are bringing token amounts. Is that, I mean, I don't have any, I guess we're the biggest beneficiaries of this, so is that why it's the case?
Principally, yes. Some of those communities really draw very minimal services for the types of high tech, high growth opportunities that most of our entrepreneurial resources are focused on. When the next time we have the Small Business Development Center come and talk, they'll show you that, Albemarle and the city are really occupying 80-90% of the services. And so it's a challenge to justify an equivalent contribution from those more rural communities.
All right. And our $75,000, what pot is that coming from? Is that approved by the board and supervisors?
That's correct. That would be pass-through funding from our Economic Opportunity Fund.
Great questions.
Yeah. We'll put your contact information up here so that make sure it lives forever on YouTube in case anybody wants to contact you if they have further
Please do.
thoughts and
Yeah.
and questions. Is there any other questions or comments from our presenter or the authority? Okay. Go back to. Nicole, I'm guessing you're helping me, maybe? Maybe not.
Your screen sharing your presentation again, right?
Yes,
So you can do pretty fine on your own.
okay.
Which is great.
Well, if there's no other questions, then there's a motion available on the screen for the authority's consideration.
JT, I
Yeah.
apologize, I just noticed, but CIC is the main recipient of the grant, so I think the motion ought to name CIC rather than Venture Central.
Okay. Wonder if that's a.
You can read it. Yeah, I'll read it. If you put this back up, I can call an audible at that point.
Right.
So in terms of the resolution, we'll just substitute Community Investment Collaborative for all notes of all references to Venture Central.
There you go. I'm very impressed.
And just to be clear, that's the reason that I'm recusing myself. Because I represent,
Good reason.
CIC.
I move that the EDA adopt this resolution appropriating $75,000 to Community Investment Collaborative, subject to the terms of the resolution and the Go Virginia grant, and authorize the authority's chair and treasurer.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. And authorize the authority's vice chair and treasurer to execute all documents necessary to complete this grant.
Vice Chair seconds.
See, Director Ray,
All right,
Director Matola. Aye. Director Morrell.
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
So the motion passes.
Right. Thank you.
Right.
Ruben.
Thanks
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, my pleasure.
All right, so next item on the agenda. I will say that in our unfinished business, we have election of the secretary treasurer, and we need to have one to sign our various motions. I'll just say that I would hope everyone would consider that between now and the next meeting, we may have to start strong on.
Can you give an outline of what's required for that position?
Yeah, I can give a little bit of a preview and I'd appreciate any help from the team if they'd like to add, but historically, the secretary treasurer has been the main point of contact for providing the financial report at each meeting. And so staff works with our finance department to generate an updated financial report, and then that's shared with the EDA and made available to the public ahead of each meeting.
From time to time when there are bond issuances or any kind of financial contracts that need to be reviewed and signed, that there's also an opportunity there for secretary treasurer to spend a little bit of time with me and sign.
To sign documents.
To sign for the afternoon.
I think the biggest thing is in the short term, we're just trying to get our financial statement. I mean, that's two-page document to the extent that's financial statement lined up with what we want to, how we want to see it. And then that's the main thing. Beyond that, I think it's pretty fun.
Okay, yeah, just kind of wanting to know what's involved with that, just because my time allocations are huge. So I want, and also, you know, is somebody else preparing the financials and is there a liability if something is prepared incorrectly and, you know, you're going through and you see something and it's missed? Once again, just from
From my experience, the financial report is prepared by staff in collaboration with the finance department of the organization, the accounting department. And then it is signed off on as far as its accuracy by county staff. As far as liability goes, I have to defer to.
I just find it a stretch to, even to come up with a hypothetical that would put you in a position to be liable for anything. Even, even if there was some form of larceny or embezzlement or something, everything is done by so many checks and balances through finance that it's impossible.
As far as the time commitment, I would say it's quite minimal, aside from reading, reporting the financial report. Or if there are special projects that require consult from time to time with outside entities.
Our treasurer doesn't handle any money, right?
No, sir.
That's why I kind of wanted
Right.
to know what.
Right.
what's
Right.
involved,
Maybe
so,
some paperwork that you and Don would have to sign.
It's mostly
but
bookkeeping.
it's all generated by staff. Finance is our fiscal agent, so you're not managing the accounts or anything
I
like
guess
that.
I went, once again, what's actually involved. in
And it
the-
is, it is,
Yeah.
actually, it's a grand title, it is secretary treasurer, but this body has already done a resolution or a motion, appointing, the director as the assistant secretary, who carries the ball for the most part.
So I think it's being an independent set of eyes to review and concur that the information that you're signing reflects what was discussed and approved at meetings.
I have no problem. Doing that if people see, throw my name in there.
Anyone else who's?
No, it's- I was just leaving up to nominating.
Second, all in favor?
Nominate Director Johnson.
There were so many people vying for it.
Yeah.
Evidence,
All right, and I think we have a motion, and I will second that. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Can I
Okay.
clarify who the initial motion was made by?
The vice chair,
Good. Thank you.
thank you.
And there's some sort of like overview, somebody else sit with me and kind of go.
Yes.
Yeah, you can do that.
It's just not something you wanna, whenever you're talking about money, you just wanna jump right
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
so.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. All right. So, now back to the staff report.
Yes, there are a number of fun announcements I'm looking forward to sharing with the EDA in the next five minutes or so. The first I want to begin, and forgive me, I feel very rude. We have a new team member, Elizabeth Hatcher, Liz, who's at the end of the table. She's, on our team, we all do a little bit of everything. So she's gonna just be helping out our team do what we do, and we're excited to have her. And she started on August 14th and has been already brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the office. Liz, is there anything that you'd like to share with the authority at all? To absolutely put you on the spot.
Page, I won't
Yeah.
follow along. No, I'm just really, I said it earlier, I'm really grateful to be on such a great team. I've really enjoyed my time so far, and getting to be at my first meeting, but yeah, I'm just really excited to absorb and learn as much as I can and work with you all.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank
Glad to
you.
have
Does UNC stand for University of North Carolina?
It does.
It
Stay tuned.
Thinking.
I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly touch on the photos for this slide here. So just a quick teaser. You'll see a familiar face in the picture on the far left. Joshua Shia has been our intern this summer. We've never had an intern in our office before, and I'll share more about Joshua in just a few moments. The middle picture is Trevor and I going up to DC shortly after our meeting in June. we got to meet with defense communities from across the country to hear about the threat of encroachment that you heard Trevor discuss. And what are some of the tools at the federal level? What are some of the things that those communities are doing to mitigate the risk of encroachment? There is foreign investment that is undermining the missions of installations across the country. And so we were able to attend this event in Washington, and in November, a presentation proposal has been accepted down in Orlando at the national conference of the Association of Defense Communities. And so looking forward to that. Trevor, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that. Okay.
So reinforcing the work by our board and staff for this project.
On the far right-hand side, this is just a photograph of the state coming to visit and look at the site readiness grant that is under implementation by the University of Virginia Foundation up at North Fork. So this photograph, difficult to see at this size, but it shows a clearing of about 30 acres of land for prospective state targets to land at North Fork. And so we're excited about the potential of this site. There's been a lot of interest in it over the years, and are hopeful that there will be a very valuable tenant that will land there soon. The UNC School of Government is listed here to recognize Ashley completing the basic economic development course. And Ashley, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to share.
I just want to share my enthusiasm for this experience. It was a distinct honor and pleasure and an opportunity to attend those 4 days in Chapel Hill under the direction of, I think, 11 really esteemed, amazing, incredible economic development professionals and academic leaders, and in just a way that I'm thankful that I had a couple of years under my belt before I dove into the immersion, because so much of it had such a different context after walking the walk a little bit. There were 11 different coursework topics and 151 ED professionals from across mainly the East Coast, a lot of North Carolinians, and a lot of Tar Heel fans, and but as far north as Maine and as far south as Louisiana. So just a really wonderful opportunity to learn and just really sink my teeth into the coursework. And it's the first step in obtaining your certificate, sort of becoming a certified economic developer. And there's only 1,100 or so certified professionals in the country. So I'm looking forward to continuing that path, and I'm just thankful for the opportunity to.
So what were the kinds of classes?
Everything, it was literally like, we've all heard the expression, drinking water from a fire hose. It was literally every component of economic development on the most intensive, fast track possible. They're financing development projects, business retention and expansion, site selection, real estate, workforce development, ethical dilemmas, trends, and economic development, managing an EDO as far as working with boards and other public bodies, and how to handle a difficult chairman.
Well, you need that.
Very valuable. Indeed.
That reminds me, a couple of years ago, we did the Virginia, what's the thing that we went to?
Oh, we went down to the
To-
conference.
Yeah, it was the Virginia Economic Development.
Economic Development Partnership, probably likely the state.
There was it was a really good
It was great.
presentation.
Was it
Oh, the
the
101?
EDA training, or was it?
I think so. There were a bunch of folks from other EDAs that were there. I think it was in Richmond.
That was
maybe?
probably.
Yeah, and
The partnership.
It was
has a
really
101.
yeah, I think it was somebody from tech, there was an organization, and I haven't seen, I don't know if they've done it again. I mean, I'm sure the pandemic. threw
Yeah, that was
things off.
pre-pandemic, right before the pandemic, and it probably, because we were talking about going the next year and then it kind of fizzled out and I think.
Cause
it's
I think that would be a good thing. I mean, along the lines of what you're talking about, there was a lot of discussion with different EDAs about things that they're doing, how they're handling different things. So something we ought to be paying attention to, because I think especially if it's convenient, it's well worth getting people to go to something like that.
And we've talked about, paying for EDA directors that had an interest in attending that. I think it was fairly nominal. I think it was maybe like $150, but like a 2-day course in Richmond.
Yeah, I think it was I want to say it was in May, but maybe they changed the time or something like
And I do remember it was really interesting to hear what was happening.
that. Yeah, it was very good.
Successes.
The next time that program's announced, we'll share the
Yeah,
EDA,
that'd be
so
great.
that you're made aware of it.
Definitely.
Actually, I'm gonna let you keep rolling and talk about a VRE
Oh.
spotlight.
Perfect. Yeah, on trend with the presentation that was provided by Rahul and Payam from Agrospheres. This is another example of the entrepreneurship in our community. We were able to meet with Imbibe Solutions last week, I believe. Yes, last week. They recently moved from the city into the county. They're in Crozet. So Mr. Matola, they're in your neck of the woods. They're located across from Mayor Cedar, behind Liberty Hall there a little bit. Or the King Solomon Lodge, as Liz and I noted as a landmark there, yeah. But Audrey, who you see there is Audrey Skinner. She is the president of Imbibe Solutions, and what they do, if you can't tell by the logo and the lab equipment, they do quality control testing on wine and beer and spirits. And
That sounds like a job that I could.
So they test,
Do they have-
they tested with their equipment.
Oh, no, okay, well, maybe that's.
It's different. But they do lab management and, if a brewer or a vineyard has an issue with maybe something's too bitter or something is heating and clouding, they do all of the chemical testing and quality control. And as I said, they moved over to Crozet this year. They recently just set up shop. And I don't know if you can tell from the photo, but she's got another project she's working on that's going to probably be commencing in October. So after her child is born, I think she'll be interested in some B2B connections and some ways maybe she can work with additional vineyards and brewers and distilleries around the way. So that currently they have 3 staff. It is Audrey and her COO Jessica. And they recently just hired a lab technician, also named Jessica, who's helping them there. They're not at capacity. They're ready to take on more projects and really are hopeful that we can through our VRE efforts hook them up with some marketing connections and just some contextual relationships that may be beneficial. And I was jotting down notes. I'm sure they do work with Payam at Agrospheres because he deals mostly with the agricultural clients too, but Rahul as well. Just to try to network, and word of mouth is how they rely on expanding their network. So we're looking forward to continuing helping them, and they've been in business 7 years, so they're pushing along. So we're just trying to help them draw up some new connections.
And provide space so they don't have to leave the area.
Exactly.
I'm just imagining that they outgrew their space in the
They
city.
did,
And that's how Charlottesville and Elmore Economic Development works
Exactly.
together. Because we don't want them to go to Richmond or to
Exactly.
Norfolk.
And
So-
fortuitously, the new location that they selected, they have plenty of space to expand if necessary and add staff and add product storage. Their location and proximity to many of the wineries that are out towards that area has been quite fortuitous as well. So
Yeah, so I just want everybody to
Yeah.
know, Charlottesville and Elmore works together
of course,
with economic development, not that we're not trying to steal from each other.
Absolutely.
We're working together to make sure that businesses are able to expand and stay in the area.
Very true.
It's got
Very
2
true.
cents worth.
Absolutely. So just a quick second to recognize Joshua. I mentioned he's our first intern. He goes back to school tomorrow. He's a rising senior at Western Albemarle High School. I am so proud of this guy. The courses and the diversity of courses that Ashley talked about at basic training at UNC is what we wanted to replicate for Josh. We wanted him to see site readiness, BRE, workforce development. And so he helped us get sites uploaded into the state database. He helped us be our eyes and ears when we couldn't be there. He attended a biomanufacturing symposium up at North Fork. Of particular interest to the EDA, he cataloged all of the bond issuances that the Albemarle County EDA has done since 1986, totals over $1 billion in benefit to the community, but helping us lay a stronger historical record and financial foundation as the EDA continues to take its next steps. And he's got big plans, but I'll pause there and see if there's anything he wants to share with the group.
Yeah, hi, I'm Joshua. Just want to say I'm so thankful to the Economic Development Office and to the EDA just to let me have this opportunity of a lifetime. It's been very enriching. So yes, like JD said, I'm starting my senior year tomorrow at Western Albemarle. Best school in the county, by the way.
I won't argue that, but that's okay.
But yeah, I intend to pursue business and economics in college, so that's what I'm going to be applying to. It's been amazing to learn about economic development and local government, and I probably think it's probably the best way I could have spent the summer. I mean, it's the best summer I've had in a long time. So I had no idea how much impact economic development has on this community. I didn't know what I was expecting. Like I didn't understand economic development as just a high school student, but coming in, it's been really cool to see just how much it affects our community, and it connects them to places and events I've attended here in Albemarle County that I never thought would be affected. And once again, I want to thank JT, actually now Liz, for welcoming me into the office family. It's been really fun. We've had fun times in the office, and I couldn't have asked for a better first job experience, first internship, first thing to have. And yeah.
Thank you, Josh. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks.
it.
Goodness, Josh.
Joshua, let me guess, you applied to UNC.
No, actually.
There's hope.
There's hope yet.
I mean, I'm probably going to I'm reaching for Wharton at UPenn. That's my hope. But if not, UVA is my next best bet. So
Well, hopefully you come back someday and take advantage of this entrepreneurship program that we've just funded and you can say, I remember when I was at the table when it happened, so.
I do hope to resume this in January after my college applications are done, because I'd love to just continue to help this office.
I have to say, we had to tell Josh, just calm down, like you have to go back to school and finish your senior year. We're very honored to have you. We've loved having him, and he's been a tremendous asset to the department. And he's a bright, smart, funny guy, and we're really gonna miss him over the next couple of months.
And he was recommended to us by a former EDA director, David Shreve. And so that was a great connection for us to make. And so I think we've already
We've covered the
finished
unfinished
our-
business, we
our
jumped ahead.
unfinished business.
Great enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And so please mark down on your calendars that September 19th date for our next meeting. That will be a big one for us to get the financing considered for the Rivanna Station Futures project.
Right, anything else? Any other questions?
I do, for the chair or anyone assembled from the county, is there any update on the establishment of a permanent director for the authority? Is there any, because we have an interim director now.
We are starting the recruiting process actually there tomorrow. It should be posted. So our goal would be, have a permanent person in the seat optimistically by the end of the calendar year.
Is,
vote for J2.
is the county required to post? Is there some law?
Best practice. For that level, so it's a best practice.
Well, I would echo George's comment too, that if you ask me, JT would be top of my list.
Sorry, Josh, it's not your time yet.
So Don, I have something.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
before we go, because I actually look at the time, this is pretty cool. Donna Price and I are the liaisons now for the board Chamber of Commerce Policy Committee. And I say that, but as preface, because I just wanted you all to make you all aware, this is really for your calendars. The Chamber of Commerce is going to be sponsoring what we're calling Eggs and Issues, Election and Economic Outlook. And if this is happening on, and I'm looking at the date here, Wednesday, September the 27th at the center, Belvedere, 8:30 in the morning, hence Eggs and Issues. And the keynote will be Bob Holsworth. I think that name may be familiar to some of you all. Bob is the keynote, who is a political analyst in the state. And they have invited the governor, who is not accepted yet, so I don't want to say, but Bob is confirmed. And also the panel is going to include, among other people, we'll have a panel afterwards. Clark Jackson, who is the director of Southeastern Region Congressional and Public Affairs. But this is certainly something that some of you all may be very interested in attending. So just want
What was the name?
it'll be advertised. Wednesday, September the 27th, 8:30 in the morning at the center.
Till when? With
8:30 to 10:30.
8:30 to
10:30.
And we might meet at some point, want to invite Natalie Masri to come.
Yeah.
To speak to this group, that would be great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. But I just wanted to make you all aware of that. You'll hear more about it in the community, but it's always good to have things like that on your calendar.
Okay,
Yep, that's all I had. Thank you.
anything else? All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
actually, I'm trying to get my head around.
Let's
We can huddle.
let's have a look over here.
Do we need to do a formal adjournment?
We're adjourned.
Yeah.
There you go.